Bayou Time Sports is brought to you by Terrible General Health System's Community Sports Institute in conjunction with Barker Honda.
Good afternoon and welcome to Nicholls State University for this special occasion as we honor Don Landry, a true Nicholls legend who contributed so much to Nicholls athletics, especially Nicholls basketball. I am Al Suffren, former Sports Information Director here at Nicholls, and I am pleased to serve as Master of Ceremonies for this occasion. On a personal level, it is so nice to be back at a place where I have the fondest memories with many of the same people that I shared those memories with. We will begin the festivities in the most appropriate way with the invocation to be delivered by 1975-76 team captain John Perry. Please stand.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we start by thanking you for the many blessings bestowed on each and every person present today, but particularly the opportunity today to extend our gratitude to Coach Don Landry and his entire family. The starting point for any occasion like this, of course, is on the court success. And Coach Landry, a great recruiter, a great coach, certainly has those milestones on his resume. You know about his victories, you know about his championships. So we extend our gratitude to him for his devotion to all his teams and all his players, including his continuing devotion throughout life, because Coach Landry has continued to follow the lives of each and every one of his players through today. But since we're a little bit older crowd at this point, there's an off-the-court component to this honor today as well. And it starts with Coach Landry being a great husband and a great father. His lovely wife, who we all know, and his 4 outstanding sons. I look back, he was only 26 years old when he took the job, so he was a young father, young husband, had a young family, but all his players got to witness him prioritize his family. So we thank him for that example. Similarly, he was a great ambassador for this university and the entire community. He enjoyed the same success in that arena as he did on the court. So on behalf of his family, his friends, university officials, his former players, and all the members of the community who have joined us here today, we thank God our Father for the opportunity to have our lives influenced by him in so many ways. In Christ's name we pray, amen.
Thank you, John. John was involved in one of Coach Landry's coaching highlights on March the 12th, 1976. Nicholls played Grambling here in the finals of the NCAA Division II South Central Regional Tournament. The game was going down to the wire, and Grambling fouled John with only seconds remaining and then called timeout to try to ice him. After the timeout, John made both free throws, and the Colonels won 90-89 to capture the regional championship. It was the largest attendance for a home game in Nicholls basketball history. The 1975-76 team finished the season with a 22-4 record, 14-1 at home, and won the Gulf South Conference Championship with an 11-2 record. Leading Nicholls to new heights is Dr. Jay Clune, who became president of the university in January 2018. A Houma native, he is the first alumnus to lead the university, having graduated from Nicholls with a bachelor's degree in 1986. He received his master's degree from the University of Alabama in 1990 and his doctorate from LSU in 1997. He brings to the president's position many years of experience in higher education as a faculty member and administrator. I give you the Honorable President of Nicholls, Dr. Jay Clune.
Thank you. I would like to welcome all of you here today, and there are a few people I'd like to introduce in attendance. First, First Lady Allison Clune, my wife, and Chief Justice of the Louisiana Supreme Court, our very own Justice John Weimer. For many of you, this may be your first time back on our beautiful campus in some time. We've been very busy with building out new spaces and renovating old ones. Like many facilities, this new version of Stouffer Gymnasium doesn't look like the old version of Stouffer Gymnasium. Today, we come together to honor the most important athletic administrator in the history of this institution. No other has had a more profound impact on Colonel Athletics. It is only fitting that we are naming this new facility the Don Landry Legacy Center in Stouffer Gymnasium. This facility is not just a physical space. It is a tribute to a man whose impact on our university and on its athletic programs is immeasurable. Coach Don Landry was an integral part of Nicholls athletics, leaving a legacy on the lives of countless student athletes and the Nicholls community. This commemoration is a testament to Coach Landry's dedication, leadership, and unwavering commitment to excellence. As we unveil the Don Landry Legacy Center, we honor not only the victories on the scoreboard, but also the victories in the hearts and minds of the individuals Coach Landry has inspired. To Coach Landry, thank you for your unwavering dedication to Nicholls State University. Your contributions will never be forgotten. To all of you gathered, this facility that we're going to dedicate today is funded through the state of Louisiana. What I would ask of you is to consider a donation to the Coach Don Landry Athletic Scholarship Fund in honor of Coach Landry, because as he knows, there is nothing more important than the student scholarships. We do not fully fund our athletic scholarships on campus because we lack the resources, and we hope to begin to do so in the future. So let us join together in celebrating this occasion and in expressing our deep appreciation for the enduring legacy of Coach Don Landry. Thank you, and go Colonels.
Thank you, Dr. Clune. When Jonathan Terrell was named the Nicholls Vice President for Collegiate Athletics in June 2020, Dr. Clune said, open quote, "An athletic director doesn't win a single game. You need someone of superior judgment to put the right team of coaches in place to be successful. Jonathan Terrell has that judgment. Going into the search, I was looking for someone of unquestionable integrity and character who could raise money. I couldn't be happier with our selection," end quote. JT has more than 2 decades of proven sales and coaching success. After several years in the coaching ranks, he has excelled as a leader, fundraiser, sales professional, and brand manager. Ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan J.T. Terrell.
Thank y'all. First, I'd just like to say thank you and to each and every one of you for being here. I'm a big fan of giving people the roses that they deserve while they're here. And Coach, we wanted to do that for you. I want to first say that our coach, AD, Commissioner Don Landry, has been an inspiration, a friend, a true colonel. Everyone here knows who Don Landry is as a person, but I would like to share a quick story about the character of a man who calls a complete stranger, so I thought. On the evening of June 16th, 2020, my dream came true. Dr. J. Clune called me to be the AD at this great university that has given me and my family so much. After crying and hugging my wife, Taryn, and jumping up and down for about 40 minutes, believing that my dream just came true, my phone rang again. It was Coach Don Landry congratulating me on my new adventure and how proud he was of me. So I knew Coach, I heard of Coach, I met Coach, but I didn't know Coach. Matt Rome, our former AD, would always talk about Coach Don Landry and speak so highly of him. How he helped him navigate some stuff, get through some trenches and some tough times. So to Coach, it may have been just a courtesy phone call, but to me it was the most inspiring call from a man who sat in the seat and who led champions and taught with great passion, and his leadership led him to be our commissioner in 1987. To me, I had just spoken to a legend. Coach and I spent about 20 minutes on the phone with him telling me if I've ever needed anything, please reach out, and he said something that day that stuck with me forever. You will never make everyone happy, but if you don't make it about you and make it about the student athlete and the coaches you serve, you'll be just fine. So I'll go back to saying a complete stranger, I thought. Well, I said that earlier in the speech, but in fact, y'all know Coach Landry. He did a whole bunch of homework. He knew my every move. He talked to a bunch of people to find out who JT was. So I wasn't a complete stranger. He knew my heart, he knew I loved this place, and he knew I was an alum. So Coach, I am forever grateful for the many conversations and the many visits we have had. He and Miss Lucille have made me part of the family, and like many of you know, there's no greater love than that Landry family love. Again, I thank you, Coach, for being who you are and a gift to all of us here. You are Colonel Pride, and congratulations on this honor. Thank you.
Thank you, JT. In 1968, Dr. O. Cleveland Hill became the first African-American athlete to wear a colonel uniform. His teammates voted him team captain for 2 years, and in fact, he was the first non-senior to serve as captain in school history. During his senior season, he led the Colonels to the NAIA playoffs, the first time a Colonel basketball team advanced to postseason competition in school history. Cleve finished his playing career in 1972 as the all-time leading scorer and all-time rebound leader. In 1999, Dr. Hill became the Dean of the Nicholls College of Education and is retired as Dean in 2006. In 2022, the College of Education and Behavioral Sciences building was named Dr. O. Cleveland Hill Hall. To represent the teams from the early years of Coach Landry's career, here is Dr. Hill.
When Coach Landry asked me to speak on behalf of the players from his first years at Nicholls, I of course readily accepted. And the theme of what I will briefly talk about also came readily to my mind. That theme, I remember a speech given by Billy Cunningham in the mid-1980s, a speech that has stayed with me for a long time, and I wanted to build on what he said. And this is what he said, and I'm quoting. And of course, you know Billy Cunningham was a great basketball player at the University of North Carolina, Philadelphia 76ers, and he was also the head coach at Philadelphia 76ers when they won their last NBA championship in 1983. But he said in his speech, and I'm quoting here, but also paraphrasing. He said, "I played the game of basketball and I coached the game of basketball. And I only wish I could have gone back and played after I had coached because I understood things so much better." Well, in a similar manner, and I think I speak for most of the guys who played during that era, we played the game of basketball. We listened to Coach Landry. We observed his behaviors as a coach, and we watched how he interacted with people from all walks of life. And after we transitioned to adulthood, I think we also wish that we could have gone back and played again, because we understood so much better what Don Landry was all about, not only as a coach, but as a leader. And having said all of that, I still think we adopted some of the better habits that he had and he possessed and he shared, more so than we even realized. And over the years, we began to use those best habits in our own various professions and in our personal lives also. I want to give you two examples of what I'm talking about. I remember we had a game in Jackson, Mississippi, and the Friday before we were to leave, Coach Landry told us that the bus would be leaving from this gym at 8 o'clock the next morning. Well, at 8 o'clock the next morning, one of the players was not there. However, promptly at 8 o'clock, Coach Landry told Mr. Sam, our bus driver, "Let's go." Now, I'm sitting in the bus and I'm thinking that, well, he could have waited a few more minutes. However, from that incident, and my wife can tell you, I developed a lifelong habit of being on time and managing my time. And quite frankly, I get a little bit unglued when I'm not on time, as my wife can tell you. As a second example, one year after I retired from Nicholls, I returned and served as interim dean of student life for 11 months. One of the departments that reported to student life at that time was University Police. Now fast forward about 12 years, and my wife and I ran into the person who had been the chief of University Police at the time. And he told my wife, "One thing I learned from your husband as a professional was to always pay attention to details." When he said those words, we were in Walmart, by the way, Coach Landry immediately came to my mind. I began to reflect on how he used to script all the practices that we had. He carried them on a card that he kept in his right back pocket. Nothing in our practices was done on a whim. Every detail was scripted. And if something needed to be worked on in more detail, he just made a note on the card and we worked on it the next day, but we did not interrupt that particular practice. And those are but two of the best habits I can attribute to Don Landry. Some of the guys that played with me during that era, you know, Ben Aberdeen, Ken Sebo, Larry Chris, Stan Bobuff. I think I saw Gary Jones here. All of us, I think, can probably remember something or some of the good habits that Coach Landry exhibited that they picked up on and carried into their work life. I also think some of the guys that worked with the basketball team, like Al Lemoyne and Nick Nelson, I think they picked up some of those good habits too. So in closing, and in speaking for those guys that I just named, and other colleagues from that era, other players from that era, some who couldn't be here today, some who have passed on, I have to say this: we became better men from having worked with and played for Don Landry. And Coach, we're forever grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Cleve. Coach Landry said Sonny Chiappontier was the hardest worker that he had ever coached. During his career, Sonny was a fierce competitor who was known for his unselfish play. He set single-season team and conference records for assists and is still the Nicholls career assist leader. Sonny was captain of the 1978-79 team that ran away with the Gulf South Conference Championship with a 15-1 conference record, and also won the NCAA Division II South Central Regional Championship. His final game as a player was also the final game for Coach Landry. Sonny lettered in both basketball and football here at Nicholls, and he had a highly successful 22-year career as head football coach at Turlands Catholic High School in Lafayette. I give you the 1978-79 team captain, Sonny Chiappontier, to represent the teams from the later years of Coach Landry's career.
All I say is thank God for name tags. It's a tough act to follow. My wife said, just say whatever Cleve said and sit down. Good afternoon, though. It's great to be here. It's great to see everybody on this special occasion to honor Coach Landry. Mary and I have made our home in Lafayette the last 35 years. Coach Landry's old hometown, went to school at Cathedral, graduate of UL. Invariably, I run into people all the time that know I played at Nicholls and played for Coach Landry. And the conversation goes around about how good a man he was and all the things that I already knew about him and things of that nature. And sooner or later, especially those old timers, will say one thing. You know what it is, Coach? They said, boy, he sure married a pretty woman. Miss Lucille, congrats on playing a big part in Coach's success. We like to say in football, he outpunted his coverage. But I played from 1975 to 79. Coach said I had 5 minutes. I could spend 5 minutes just talking about the managers, Jimbo Perry and Pat Parrington, so I'll try to not talk about those guys. I cherish those 4 years with Coach Landry. Those are memories I still cherish to this day, and I'll cherish to the day I die. There were a bunch of fun times. The friendships, as I said about the managers, Pat was godfather to my oldest boy, Walt is godfather to my middle son. I don't know what happened to the third one, I couldn't find somebody. that I knew well. But the bottom line is we had experiences that we wouldn't trade for anything in the world. Met my wife here 42 years ago, standing right over there. Houma girl, Mary Hill, no relation to Cleve. But bottom line is we had fun. The championships, there was 2 championships my freshman year. Played with a bunch of great guys. I see some of them here, and I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge, in my opinion, and my opinion right now is the only one counts because I got the mic, the greatest player in the history of Terrell's Catholic. I'd like him to stand up. Mr. Larry Wilson, please, right here. He's so shy and humble. This is why I was the leading assist guy. I took the ball out of bounds and threw it to Larry. This first year, I learned a lot by watching. Didn't play at all. I was a cheerleader, got to practice every day with these guys, the John Perrys of the world, the Shelby Hippolytes. Shelby Hippolyte had one of the best years in school history, his senior year. The Richard Polk might have been the best player athlete I've ever seen play here. He was a tremendous athlete. Learned a lot from them guys. I also learned from Russell Menard back in the dorm that I was a terrible card player. Lost my butt, and I have never gambled since. So thank you, Russell, wherever you're at. I want to talk about a lot. Going into our junior year, we expected big things. You notice I skip over the sophomore year. We didn't win too many games. We had a lot of young guys. We had some missing pieces. But Coach Landry went out and got some junior college guys and filled in the pieces, and we expected big things going into the junior year. Won 17 ball games, and bottom line is we won the last 8. But more importantly, we were fortunate enough through Coach Landry's efforts to be able to go on a trip to Europe to play in Paris and France. We went to play the pro team, and then we played in a tournament against Poland, France, and who was the third team, Coach? I can't remember, too long ago. But bottom line, we won the tournament, had a great time over there. We galvanized us leading into that last year, our senior year, which obviously we won the championship. I remember first getting to Paris, and a bunch of people were surrounding all the black players and getting autographs and things of that nature. And Coach Landry likes to say, you know, the Globetrotters were in town that day performing, and he said those people thought that those guys were the Globetrotters. And I said, no, Coach, you don't know the whole story. Is that Rogers Washington told them they were the Globetrotters. 15-1 our senior year. The thing that would have been a storybook finish for us is we could have pulled off that victory here at home against North Alabama, because they went on to win the national championship, as we all know, by a pretty good margin in both games, I understand. So, but those guys that senior year playing with Larry Wilson was a tremendous honor. Rogers Washington, those fellas that are not around right now, but we really enjoyed playing with those guys, and Coach Landry did a great job with us. Speaking of Coach Landry, I think that's about him today. One word I can think of when I think of Coach Landry is consistency. He was the same every day. He was a consistent father, consistent husband, consistent coach, leader. He was a friend. He was a good friend. He still reaches out. I went to lunch with him about 3 or 4 months ago, and I learned some things I never knew about him. You know, how many of y'all knew he was a Marine? He was a Marine. Nobody knew that. We'd have been even more scared of you, Coach. But the 4 years I played for him, never heard him say a cuss word. And believe me, we gave him a lot of reasons to cuss. We never cussed. But he was a man of faith, of integrity, great moral fiber, and you know, we saw that every day on display. And as a player, you appreciate that even keel. You knew what you were getting every day. It wasn't a roller coaster effect where you didn't know you were walking on eggshells, and we appreciated that very much. In closing, I might have went over 5 minutes, Coach, I'm sorry. In closing, I think I speak for all the guys that I played with during those years, during that era, that we're extremely happy for you, and it's about damn time.
Thank you, Sonny. The longest serving assistant coach or staff member during Coach Landry's career was assistant coach Jerry Sanders, who served as an assistant coach for the last 9 of the 13 years that Coach Landry was head coach. Coach Landry said, open quote, "Jerry was with us through our most successful years, and he deserves a lot of credit for the success that we had," close quote. When Coach Landry retired from coaching in 1979 to become full-time athletic director, Coach Sanders became head coach. In his first year as head coach, Coach Sanders led Nicholls to another successful season, advancing to the finals of the NCAA Division II South Central Regional in 1979-80. He played both basketball and baseball here at Nicholls and earned both his master's and bachelor's degrees from Nicholls. Jerry Sanders, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. I'm very proud to be here today. Don and I started, it was kind of crazy, but I was in the principal's office getting my mail in high school in Hannibal, Missouri, and Don called on the telephone and asked if he could speak to me. And so the secretary came down as I'm getting my mail because I'm going to go up to the field house. And I got to the phone, I got to the phone and I asked, "Who is this?" And he says, "Don Landry." And I said, "Hi, Don, how you doing?" And he said, "Would you be interested in being the assistant basketball coach at Nicholls?" And I said, "I would love to be." I said, "But my problem is I'm going to class. I won't be done till the end of the day. And when I get home, I'm going to have to tell my wife, who's from Houma, Louisiana, and has spent 5 years in the snow tundra of Missouri, that she wants to go to, do you want to go to Nicholls to be the assistant basketball coach with me?" And so he said, "Well, I'll give you some time and think about it, so I'll call you back tonight." So I go home and I go to Ann and I said, I get to my office and I call her from my coach's office. And I said, "Ann, Don just offered me the assistant's job at Nicholls to coach basketball." She couldn't stop. She kept saying, "Yes, say yes, say yes, say yes, say yes." She had had enough of the snow and cold for 5 years. And I've got to the point where I like it down here now, I really do. We've been here almost 50 years in Thibodaux, and we're not going anywhere else. But just to talk about Don, and a lot of things that Cleveland said is really important, and I didn't know for a long time that he'd been, I think it's the Marine Corps, right? Okay, he was in the Marine Corps, never mentioned it, okay? But everything you did on time, it was like that little card in his back pocket. I had one too, but he had everything memorized on that card. And so the crazy part about it is when I finally got to where he could interview me, he asked me, he said, "What are your 2 goals for the basketball team at Nicholls?" And I said, "Don, the number one thing is I want to make this basketball program a winning team. And the number 2 thing is we want to recruit the best players on and off the field and in the classroom." And he said, "I agree with that. We're going to go straight ahead together." But the thing about, like what Cleveland just said too, Don never bragged about anything, okay? He never bragged about anything. But the 2 things he said to me that made me really proud to be here with the basketball program at Nicholls and with Nicholls State is, he said the first thing was, after the North Texas State game, he said, we won in Denton, Texas. Don said, "I think we've turned the corner by beating a good Division I team at their gym." And I said, "I agree with you there. They were really good." We were still Division II at that time. The second thing he said, he called me one day, and this was years after we both retired from coaching. And he said, and we were reminiscing about how good the teams were and the crowds were and all this. And he said, "We built this program." He said, "We packed Stouffer Gym night after night for several seasons." And I said, "You're correct, Don, that is right." What I want to tell you was the thing that Al just mentioned about the best crowd and John Perry and the Grambling game. It was for the regional championships. And I don't know what happened, but the state fire marshal who controls the crowd, it was here that night. And I don't know if Coach Didier told him to come or whatever. We're warming up. Gramblin's warming up. We're warming up down here. And there's a big commotion outside. You can hear the doors are rattling the doors. 4 buses from Grambling were late and hadn't got here yet. In this place, there was no seats. Now, Coach Didier went out and made some kind of a comment. I don't know what he told them, but they let the 4 bus loads in, and we played the game, and it was an unbelievable. And we talk about pack. I wish somebody had the stats of how many people were here that night, and I have no idea. You, Don, I mean, it was everybody. But anyway, those are the 2 things that we talked about. But Don coached here for 13 years. I did some research, and he has done an excellent job. And he's not only just working for the team, but he's always working for the university. But when I looked in the stats book, the media guide that I had, the next person with the most years, he was here today, Ricky Broussard. I don't know where Ricky is. No, he was here. So he had 18. He was here for 12 years, and Don was here for 13. And I really think Ricky, where you at, Ricky? Raise your hand. Where are you at? If you give your hand. If his best buddy, who went to LSU as the head basketball coach, didn't offer you the assistant's job, he would have gone. But he left here to go to LSU as the assistant coach. We thank you for your help too. Appreciate it. Now, the thing we did that Sonny talked about was we did a lot of traveling. Don found out that you could travel out of country in the summertime, and it would count anything against the NCAA, and you could go every 2 or 3 years, I think it was. So we went. Here's the trips that we made. We went first to Mexico City, we went to El Salvador, we went to Paris, France, and we went to Costa Rica. And the interesting thing was, like Sonny said, the France was a really good trip because we played against some teams that I believe were actually professionals, and we had to find out how the rules were different and everything, and they played pretty rough. And Don and I was about ready to try to get some technicals, but they didn't worry about getting technicals over there. But the Costa Rica one was another one of Don's ideas. He helped form the Gulf South Conference, so he decided. He always took our team out, so he decided to form a Gulf South All-Star trip. And so we went to Costa Rica for a week with all the teams in the conference, and they elected, I think, 3 people or 2? 2 people, 2 All-Stars off their team. Both their coaches came and the wives came. We had the best time for a week. We played all over Costa Rica, and every one of these trips that we took, they would give you tours, you could visit. Like in El Salvador, they took you to an active volcano, and there was one that was not a volcano. In Central America, they took us different places. We got to see the pyramids and stuff. But all of these trips, if the way he thinks on his level, he always thinks out of the box. But on these trips, we saw cultures of people that ultimately brought us together as a family and as a team. And I even thought at times when we were playing against Poland and some of these teams, I felt like we were playing for the USA and Nicholls State because there was nobody there from Thibodeau. Okay, we only had one visitor. We were practicing in Paris, and this young man came in with a Nicholls State shirt on and sat down and watched us practice in one of the gyms we were at. So we asked him if his family wanted to come to the game, but I don't think they ever came back to the game. I don't even remember his name. But when we went to Central America, Don got to be really good friends with the May family, and he even invited Lewis May, one of their best players, to come to Nicholls to try out. And he came and tried out. He signed up for the business college and graduated from Nicholls in business, and he now works in New Orleans. And Don got to be real good friends with her family. The other thing I was going to say was that besides his legacy with basketball in Nicholls, Don created, with a couple other coaches in the state, the Louisiana Association of Basketball Coaches, the initials are LABC, and it's still active today. And Scott, if I got it right, Scott, his son, is the executive director of the LABC. And we were in the first get-together, we usually had an all-star game and we had a banquet. Well, the first all-star game we had in Shreveport, Louisiana, and Don and I were both selected as the head coach and assistant coach. because we had a good record here at Nicholls. And we coached the was the West team or East team? East. Anyway, the other team had Robert Parrish, and I don't know if y'all are Boston Celtics fans or Centenary fans. He played at Centenary and went to Boston, and he was basically a 6'11" guy who played 20 years at Boston Celtics, and they call him the Chief. And he basically what he did was he outscored us. We had a good team on our side, but we couldn't compete with Robert Parrish. And I just want to say this in closing. I just want to say that Lon and Lucille, I want to thank both of you. But I got to tell y'all one more story, and my wife told me not to tell too many stories. We're at Spring Hill College, and we're getting ready to go home, but we're getting up to eat breakfast, and we go down to this nice big fancy place where they have a room especially for us. And we sit down to eat, and the manager comes in, and he says, "Sorry, but we have no cook. Do we have any volunteers?" And we had my wife, Ann. Where's my Ann at? She's Ann. All right, she's over here. Lucille raised her hand. They cooked for 25 people in the Nicholls group, 25 people at breakfast. We had the best breakfast we ever had on the road. So I think the family effect, like all the people are talking about, with the family is just so entwined. And Don's thing, I think being in the Marine Corps, he was organized, he was always on time, and I never got left in the bus because my wife complains I'm always on time. But I think I'm on time because Don's on time. But I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. You have changed my whole life, okay? Thank you all very much.
Coach Sanders and Mrs. Sanders are Nicholls to the core. I can remember when I came here in 1972 for the home basketball games, their daughter Jennifer would be dressed up as a Nicholls cheerleader, and I think at that time she was like 6 or 7 years old. So. Coach Landry and his wonderful wife Lucille were blessed to have 4 sons, just one shy of their own basketball team. The oldest of the 4 sons is Chris. Chris retired from the Marines as a lieutenant colonel, and he saw action in Iraq and Afghanistan. Chris, we applaud you and thank you for your service. Chris now lives in Folsom and is Regional Vice President for Hug and Haul Equipment Company. Here is Chris Landry to represent the Landry family.
Well, I think most of you just learned my dad was a Marine, and I was a Marine, and we learned from, I think, Cleveland that my dad was a stickler for time, right? In details. Well, the one Marine in this room that was Don Landry's son forgot all his notes for the day, so I don't have anything to say. I'm done. No. This is an easy talk because I'm just going to explain a little bit of what it was like growing up as a son of Don and Lucille Landry. And it was exciting. It was exciting times, and I think most of y'all already know that. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. My high school years was when it was that 75, 76 through 1979 period where, at least on the court, the team had the most success. We grew up going to, I think, every game, Mom. I don't know if we ever missed a game. As young children, we had the opportunity at least once a year to travel with the team on the bus. And yes, the players will appreciate this. I can remember Mr. Sam, the driver. But we got to be around the program. The players were bigger than life. I mean, it's great seeing each one of you that are here today. I grew up idolizing each one of you. I saw you on the court. I saw you at practice. I saw you on traveling. And it was an exciting time. My brothers got to experience the same thing. We attended these games. We waited for our dad to finish the game and come out on the court with our mom. I can still picture my mom up in the stands right about here with Ann Sanders every game, okay, with many of you that's here today. My brother Jeff was famous for running underneath the bleachers every game, picking up the coins that each one of you dropped below the stands. Okay, to be honest with you, we all did it. I believe the stories of Stephen being carted around as a young kid on the cart that holds the basketballs, being pushed around the court, you know, prior to the game or at practice by the trainers here. These were marks that were left on each one of us throughout those years. I'm sure glad you were winning in my high school years, because it would have been a lot tougher going to high school every day with a losing program here. But I'll tell you, this place, it was standing room only, and the hottest ticket in town was to attend a Nicholls basketball game. And I can't tell you how many people came to me every day asking for tickets, which I don't think I ever had any, so we got into the games. But this was the place to be, and it was the talk of the town. And in my most informative years, I guess you could say, I got to be part of it, and I got to see, just like my brothers, we got to see it up front and close. We got to see, I think somebody said my dad never cursed, even at in those moments in the locker rooms, and we got to see that ourselves. And I tell you that because throughout all of that, we were learning lessons just like the players that talked about it today. We were watching, even though when we didn't realize we were watching, we were learning. And there was so much that I took away that it impacted my life, and I know it impacted my brothers' lives. But all along, my mom was there too, and I would be remiss to not mention, she was always on Dad's side, never missed a beat. And in fact, many times during basketball season and recruiting season, Dad was traveling, just the nature of being a kid of a coach, but Mom never was missing in those times. We always knew that she was side by side, helping Dad, keeping him focused, providing whatever support she could. She was involved in the community. He believed in being involved in the community, being involved with the faculty, and she did too. And she was the biggest promoter that I knew of this program. And I know Dad appreciated it. I know we watched it and we learned. We watched our dad value our family in a way that when he couldn't be with us, he brought us into the picture by, even when I mentioned attending games, going to practices. We were part of this team. And I was glad to see that remarks today, because I know my dad valued that very much. I mentioned that we learned a lot. You know, what I saw and what I learned was to value the people that you are around, to be respectful of them, and he did that every day. And I applied many of those traits when I had the opportunity to lead in the Marine Corps. He was always respectful of his players. He believed in having a high ethics in his program. He attacked, or as I would put in the Marine Corps, attacked his responsibilities using the highest of morals. And he had success doing it. So if I had to take away anything, one thing I definitely learned was you can do it right and still be successful. And that was evident what went on in this program and what Dad instilled. Dad, I'm a part of your family, that family, your 4 sons, their wives, your grandchildren, and now your great-grandchildren. You teach us every day, and you continue to teach us. You have had a legacy on this program, and you've made a big impact on a lot of lives. And I know we are better people because of you and Mom, and we thank you. This honor today is absolutely fitting. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Chris. I am pleased to now present the honoree. Don Landry joined the Nicholls staff in 1966 as head basketball coach. During his 13-year career at Nicholls, his teams made several postseason appearances. His 1975-76 and 1978-79 teams won Gulf South Conference championships and NCAA Division II regional championships. He was named Gulf South Conference Coach of the Year and Louisiana Coach of the Year. Despite all the wins and accolades, one thing always remained important for Coach Landry. It was for his players to get a quality education. One former player said, open quote, his #1 goal was to make sure that everyone on the team went to class and graduated. He wanted to have a good team, but he wanted us to have a quality education. He was the type of coach who took time with you and talked to you to help you become a better player and a better man. He was more than a coach. He was a mentor and role model, close quote. Don served as athletic director at Nicholls from 1978 until 1987, when he became commissioner of the Southland Conference. Before leaving the Southland Conference in 1990, he helped broker a deal that allowed Nicholls to join the conference. He also served as commissioner of the Sunshine State Conference for 10 years. He has been inducted into 5 Hall of Fames: the National Association of Collegiate Directors of Athletics Hall of Fame, the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, the Louisiana Basketball Hall of Fame, the Sunshine State Conference Hall of Fame, and the Nicholls Athletic Hall of Fame. The Louisiana Association of Basketball Coaches and Sunshine State Conference have awards named after him. During his incredible career, he also served as executive director of the National Cutting Horse Association and later as director of special projects for the Texas Rangers Baseball Club. After his retirement, he even authored a book on Louisiana high school and college boxing. During his 44-year career, he established himself as a leader and innovator in athletics. His accomplishments make him the worthy namesake for the Don Landry Legacy Center. Great coach, athletic director, and commissioner, and even better person, husband, father, and grandfather. It's my pleasure to present Don Landry.
Thanks to the speakers on the panel for all your flattering remarks. Before any other thanks, I must first offer thanks to God for being the force behind all good things that have come about. Thank you, Dr. Clune, for your support on this. Thank you for your support on this project and for getting it approved by the state board. Okay. You and your wife, Allison, have been extremely nice to Lucille and me, and congratulations on all you have done to improve every aspect of Nicholls State, including the athletic facilities. Thank you, JT. I appreciate you appointing me to the Nicholls Athletic Hall of Fame Selection Committee. I see how many improvements you have made in the facilities, and I see that you love this university. In 3 days in November, the Colonels had the best results in its history. The women's basketball team beat Tulane for the first time ever. The men's basketball team defeated LSU. We were there. And the football team won another Southland Conference championship. We cannot wait till September 7th, 2024, when we beat LSU in Tiger Stadium. I want to thank the committee who did all the work for this day. I especially want to thank my good friend Vic LaFont. Without his efforts, I'm not sure that we would be here today. I appreciate all of our friends who are with us today. Many of you became lifelong friends. I also really appreciate the fans who supported us. In those glory days that several referred to, you packed this gym, you were loud and enthusiastic, and you gave us a definite home court advantage. Our home court record during that period was 48 wins, only 10 losses in those 4 glory years. I thank the faculty. You may not know it, but you probably saved my job at one time. In our first 4 years, we had yet to make the playoffs. We were hearing rumors that I should be fired. The faculty heard the same rumors, and they went to President Galliano and expressed their support, their support for me. The rumors stopped, and we started winning more. I'm proud to say that I taught a class during my entire career at Nicholls State as an associate professor. Dr. Galliano and athletic director Ray Didier hired a young 27-year-old coach who had never been a head college coach. They convinced us that they wanted a young coach to build a program the right way. They showed us the blueprints of this gym. We accepted the job, and it was one of the best decisions that Lucille and I ever made. I only had 2 assistant coaches, Tiger LeBlanc and Jerry Sanders. Tiger is no longer with us, but Jerry, I want to thank you for all of the hard work, input, and your recruiting. Every graduate assistant coach and student coach, thanks for your help. Roy Pugh is the only person who saw every game I coached. He was the radio play-by-play announcer for all Colonel games. Al Suffren was the sports information director for most of the years I was at Nicholls. He sent out countless releases about our program, produced award-winning media guides, and also arranged interviews with every top sports writer in the state. The Century Club, the official booster club at that time, really came through for us. In 1977, our basketball team was invited to represent the USA in an international tournament in France. All expenses were covered while we were in France. However, we had to pay for our flights. I went to the club and suggested a fundraising effort to help raise the funds for that purpose. Instead, they voted to donate the amount we needed. We accepted the invitation to participate in the tournament, and I'm proud to say we won the tournament. Some of the players here today were members of that squad. When I was coaching, I wanted every player to be the best they could. Not all of them could be a Shelby Hippolyte, a Larry Wilson, Rogers Washington, Richard Polk, or Johnny Hall, but each of them could make a contribution. I want to thank every player who I inherited on our first squad, such as Stan Bobuff and Sammy Maniscalco. Also, our first 2 recruits, Ken Seabold and Dale Malonzo. Every graduate assistant, such as Ben Aberdee and David Corona. Every student manager, such as Nick Nelson and Herbie Kimball. Every trainer, such as Bob Drury and Gene Van Kampen. Every SID, including Al Salford and Martin Harmon. Every player who didn't start but made a meaningful contributions, such as Carl Lukart or Steve Wishhouse. I want to mention through the years that we have lost 13 players, 1 coach, and 1 trainer. Would all the players and staff members here today please stand and be recognized? One of the best compliments I received was that I brought so many great people to Thibodaux, people who made contributions to the city. Two examples are Danny Cavell and Cleveland Hill. When you are coaching, you believe that winning is the most important thing. Later, you come to realize that the most satisfying thing is watching former players be successful in their lives and with their families. I believe that a true measure of success is when you leave a job in better shape than when you arrived. I know this is true in my case. I must mention the time when the entire Nicholls family worked together on a single goal, and the success that resulted. The entire coaching staff, including football, the faculty, alumni, and fans, we all worked on the same plan. Recruiting Central Lafourche superstar Larry Wilson. When Larry signed with the Colonels, it started what is known as the glory years in our basketball history. It shows what is possible when we all unite with the common goal. My name may be on the wall, but I consider it a legacy for everyone who helped this program grow and made it possible for every team that followed to be successful. If you were part of our basketball program, you are a part of that legacy also. I must thank our 4 sons, Chris, Scott, Jeff, and Stephen, their wives, our 12 grandkids, 3 great-grandkids, soon to be 4. All of you made Lucille and me proud, and we love you. Would all family members stand and be recognized? And last but not least, I must thank Lucille, my wife of 63 years. I couldn't have been successful without her. We were equal partners. We were equal partners. Her strength helped overcome my weaknesses. Lucille deserves her name on that wall as much as I do. This dedication is to feature our basketball history. I'm not overlooking those who contributed to our success in my years as athletic director. I would like to thank all of you who worked with me during those years. The entire Landry family appreciates this great honor. I cannot express how much this means to me and our family. Thank you all for being here.
It's now time for the unveiling of the Don Landry Legacy Center. Nicholls Vice President for Collegiate Athletics, Jonathan Terrell, will do the honors. JT?
So it is my great honor to stand up and let everybody look to the left as Jared gets ready to cut down the deal so we can name it the Don Landry Legacy Center. To be able to bestow this on Coach is just amazing. The one thing is the simple fact that how great of a man he was, but he was a great leader, a great coach. And if you think about all that he talked about today, just the simple things of even, he was a faculty member, he was a AD, he was a coach, he was a commissioner. When you think about all of that, this is long overdue. You love to give people roses when they're able to accept them. And so for us to be able to do this, Vic LaFont and for the group that came together to put this together, for him to be able to accept this has been awesome. It means the world to us because as an AD, as a former coach, you have somebody that you've always talked to and in leadership. And Coach has been around and has a lot and left a legacy, and here's the legacy that he's leaving with all of these people that showed up today. So it's been wonderful. This is an exciting time in Colonel's athletics, and Coach is a true Colonel and a true fan. If you look at the room that's behind us, that part of the room is going to be used during the game. It's for black chair members. They buy a black seat, they have refreshments, they're able to go in there. The other part of it is when it's not a basketball game, it's academic center for athletics here in Stouffer. So it's going to be used for men's and women's basketball, volleyball. They go in there, they have study session. They can do all of that school-wise, as we have the Deanna Falcon Academic Success Center across the way. They can stay here and get some. So it's used for that. And then the bathrooms that are new, as you walk through the new Hall of Fame. So all of that is part of the Don Landry Legacy Center.
And what kind of legacy did Don leave on the university and the university athletics for that matter?
Well, I can speak of so many, but I'll talk about one. I mean, Dr. Cleveland Hill. I mean, he has a building named after him as a dean. He talked about every kid that he coached that he wanted them to graduate. And Dr. Hill being the first African-American to step on campus, and him, Coach Don Landry, having the foresight to be able to bring him in and make him feel comfortable. So I think when you think of the legacy, you think of all the people that he's touched, all the people that has been able to be successful because of the touch of Coach Don Landry and his assistants.
Well, I'm very honored, and I appreciate everything, and I'm very humbled right now. I'm at a loss for words as to I'm at a loss for words. I got emotional at a time or two, but I was able to at least regain my composure and finish my speech. But, you know, I had to read the speech, and if I looked up, I knew I'd break down again. And so, but I wanted to thank a variety of people that contributed to that, you know, and so I'm just very humble and appreciative. I was always an innovative type guy, and you know, I could come up with ideas, and then God blessed me with the ability to follow through with ideas and to provide some leadership, and that's the biggest legacy I can think of, and I'm proud of my accomplishments and just very humble.
Coach Landry is an inspiration to me, has been throughout my coaching career. Even when I was a young coach, I used to come here and work his basketball camps in the summertime. And, you know, we talked basketball the whole time I was here. So he's always been an inspiration to me, a mentor. And he set the tone and the tradition of basketball here in this building. And I was so appreciative that when I did get the job, and by the way, I would not have gotten the job had it not been for him, because I had no idea that they might be looking at someone that had my experience to come here. And he called me up and said, you need to apply, and I did. And so, yeah, he's a good man. He's a good man.